Ford has built some incredible engines over the years. Unfortunately, they've also built some absolute disasters. If you're shopping for a used Ford truck or SUV, knowing which engines to avoid can save you thousands in repair bills and endless frustration. Today, we're counting down the 9 Ford engines you should absolutely avoid. I've been wrenching on Fords for over 15 years, and I've seen these failures firsthand, not once or twice, but dozens of times. We're talking about catastrophic problems that Ford knows about but hasn't properly addressed. Pay close attention because engine number 7 has a failure rate so high that some insurance companies are starting to consider these vehicles high risk. And number 1 is still being sold in brand new Fords today despite a decade of documented problems. These are the engines currently going down in value and reputation, and we'll explain exactly why you should steer clear. Let's get into it. Engine number 9, the 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6. Let's start with what should have been Ford's flagship success story but turned into an absolute nightmare for thousands of owners. The first-generation 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6 appeared in F-150s, Explorers, Flexes, and Taurus SHOs from 2010 to 2016. On paper, it was revolutionary, V8 power with V6 fuel economy. But in reality, it's one of the most problematic engines Ford has ever produced. The number 1 killer is timing chain failure. These engines use internal water-cooled turbos, and when the coolant degrades or the cooling system develops issues, these turbos start leaking. But here's where it gets catastrophic. The leaked coolant doesn't just damage the turbos, it flows into the intercooler system and eventually gets sucked into the engine through the intake. When enough coolant accumulates, it causes a hydrolock condition that bends connecting rods and destroys pistons. But wait, there's more. The cam phasers on these engines are notoriously problematic. They start making a horrible rattling noise on cold starts that sounds like a diesel engine full of marbles. Ford issued a technical service bulletin acknowledging the problem, but the fix requires tearing into the front of the engine to the tune of $2,500 to $3,500. And even after repair, many come back with the same issue within 30,000 miles. The carbon buildup issue is severe on these early EcoBoosts because they only have direct injection. Without port injection to wash the valves, carbon accumulates so badly that engines start misfiring, running rough, and losing power. I've pulled intake manifolds off these engines and found valves coated in carbon so thick you could barely see the valve surface underneath. If you're looking at a used Ford with this engine, my advice is simple: run away. Even if it seems fine now, you're gambling with thousands of dollars in inevitable repairs. And if you already own one, budget for major engine work or trade it in while it's still running. These engines are financial disasters waiting to happen. Engine number 8, the 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6. When Ford launched the 2.7-liter EcoBoost V6 in 2015, it promised the perfect combination of power and fuel economy in a compact package. On paper, it looked great, but in reality, early models were plagued with reliability issues that tarnished the EcoBoost name. This engine found its way into the Ford F-150 and, unfortunately, many owners wished it hadn't. The most significant issue plaguing this engine is excessive oil consumption. Engines produced between April 2016 and January 2017 had defective valve guides that allowed oil to burn off at alarming rates. Owners found themselves constantly checking and topping off oil levels, turning what should have been routine maintenance into a full-time job. This wasn't just an inconvenience. Running low on oil can cause catastrophic engine damage. Beyond oil consumption, the early 2.7-liter EcoBoost models from 2015 to 2017 came with plastic oil pans sealed with adhesive rather than traditional gaskets. These pans develop leaks frequently, creating oil puddles in driveways and potentially starving the engine of lubrication. Turbocharger failures also plague these engines, with some turbos giving out before the 50,000-mile mark. In the worst cases, owners face complete engine replacements shortly after purchasing their trucks. While Ford made improvements in later years, the damage was already done. The early 2.7-liter EcoBoost fell far short of Ford's built tough promise and left many owners wondering why they didn't just buy a naturally aspirated V8. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Engine number 7, the 1.0-liter EcoBoost 3-cylinder. Ford's 1.0-liter EcoBoost was a turbocharged 3-cylinder wonder designed to deliver outstanding fuel economy. Instead, it became a maintenance nightmare. This tiny turbocharged engine appeared in models like the Ford Fiesta, Focus, EcoSport, and C-Max, promising European-style efficiency for American drivers. The engine's fatal flaw was its wet timing belt design. Unlike traditional timing belts that run dry, this one operated by running through engine oil. Over time, the belt would deteriorate in the oil, sending debris throughout the engine. This debris could clog the oil pump, starving the engine of lubrication and leading to complete failure. Timing belt failure in this engine often meant total engine destruction. Direct injection technology, while helping with fuel economy, caused significant carbon buildup on the intake valves. This buildup led to misfires, rough running, and reduced performance. Owners also reported frequent coolant leaks, overheating issues, and head gasket failures. In some extreme cases, these problems led to engine fires, a terrifying prospect for any vehicle owner. Despite winning multiple awards earlier on, including International Engine of the Year, the 1.0-liter EcoBoost quickly developed a reputation for expensive repairs and catastrophic failures. Maintenance costs on this supposedly budget-friendly engine often exceeded what owners would spend on a larger, more conventional power plant. What was supposed to be an efficient, budget-friendly engine turned into a money pit that left owners frustrated and mechanics overworked. If you see this engine in a used car listing, just walk away. Engine number 6. The 3.8-liter Essex V6. The Ford 3.8-liter Essex V6 was essentially an enlarged version of the earlier Essex V4, and unfortunately, it inherited many of the same problems. This engine has an interesting history. It was originally designed as a diesel engine, but was converted to gasoline during development, resulting in an unnecessarily heavy and awkwardly designed power plant. It appeared in various Ford vehicles, including the Mustang, Thunderbird, Windstar minivan, and even some Taurus models. While supercharged versions in cars like the Thunderbird Super Coupe would produce around 230 horsepower, the naturally aspirated versions struggled to make decent power, typically outputting around 193 horsepower. But like its four-cylinder sibling, the 3.8-liter SX's greatest weakness was catastrophic head gasket failures. These failures often occurred before the engine reached 150,000 miles, which is unacceptable for what should be a durable V6. When the head gasket failed, it wasn't a simple fix. Repairing blown gaskets on the 3.8-liter SX typically required overhauling most of the engine internals, making this a costly and time-consuming fix. The combination of mediocre power output and expensive, inevitable repairs made this engine a poor choice. While some examples survived with meticulous maintenance, the odds weren't in the owner's favor. It's an engine best left in the past. Engine number 5. The Essex V4, 1.7-liter and 2.0-liter. Speaking of the Essex family, let's discuss where the problems began. The Essex V4. During the 1960s and 70s, Ford offered this engine in 1.7-liter and 2.0-liter displacements, producing modest power figures between 73 and 92 horsepower, with torque ranging from 100 to 122 pound-feet. This engine powered models like the Ford Corsair, Granada, and Zephyr, vehicles that enjoyed decent popularity in their day. However, the Essex V4 engine itself was severely underwhelming. It was underpowered and sluggish, contributing to disappointing sales figures for models like the Corsair. Drivers expected more from their vehicles, and this engine simply couldn't deliver. Like its V6 successor, the Essex V4 was notorious for gasket failures. Head gaskets regularly failed before 150,000 miles, leaving owners with expensive repair bills for an engine that wasn't impressive even when running properly. The combination of poor performance and reliability issues made this one of Ford's more forgettable engines, and for good reason. If you're considering a classic Ford from this era, make sure you know what engine sits under the hood. An Essex V4 should send you looking elsewhere. Engine number 4. The 5.4-liter Triton V8 3-valve. Ford's modular V8 family includes some excellent engines, but the 5.4-liter Triton V8 3-valve is not one of them. Introduced in the mid-2000s, this engine initially showed promise with respectable power output ranging from 295 to 390 horsepower, depending on the model year and application. This engine appeared in Ford F-150 trucks, Expeditions, and various other Ford vehicles. Unfortunately, reliability issues quickly overshadowed any performance benefits. Drivers regularly reported problems with timing chains stretching and failing, spark plugs literally blowing out of cylinder heads, persistent engine misfires, repeated ignition coil failures, and annoying vibrations that never seemed to go away. Certain model years were particularly problematic. The 2007 and 2008 F-150s with the 5.4-liter 3-valve suffered from severe engine knock, spark plugs that broke off when technicians tried to remove them for routine maintenance, and worn-out cam phasers that created terrible rattling noises on cold starts. Several owners faced complete engine replacements, an unacceptable outcome for what was supposed to be a workhorse truck engine. The spark plug issue deserves special mention. The two-piece spark plug design used in these engines would frequently seize in the cylinder head. When mechanics attempted removal, the plugs would break, leaving the threaded portion stuck in the head. Special tools were developed just to extract these broken plugs, adding significant cost to routine maintenance. If you're shopping for a used F-150, Expedition, or other Ford vehicle from this era, verify what engine it has. The 5.4-liter 3-valve should be a deal-breaker unless the price reflects the potential repair costs. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Engine number 3, the 4.6-liter Triton 3-valve V8. The 4.6-liter 3-valve Triton is essentially the 5.4-liter's smaller sibling, and unfortunately, it shares many of the same problems with less displacement and power to show for it. This engine produced roughly the same horsepower as the 5.4-liter but delivered significantly less torque, making it feel sluggish in heavier vehicles. Found in F-150s, Mustangs, Crown Victorias, and other models, the 4.6-liter 3-valve suffered from the same cam phaser issues that plagued the 5.4-liter. Owners became all too familiar with the distinctive rattling noise these failing cam phasers made during cold starts. The sound was so common that Ford dealership service advisors could identify the problem over the phone. This engine also inherited the notorious spark plug blowout problem. The threads in the aluminum cylinder heads weren't strong enough to hold the spark plugs under combustion pressure, causing them to shoot out of the head entirely. This left owners with expensive repair bills that included time-consuming thread repair procedures. While the 4.6-liter 3-valve wasn't quite as problematic as the 5.4-liter version, it still represents a risky purchase. There are simply better Ford engines out there, and if you're shopping for a used Ford, you should avoid this one. Engine number 2, the 6.0-liter Powerstroke diesel V8. The early 2000s Ford Super Duty trucks looked fantastic. They were handsome, capable, and exactly what heavy-duty truck buyers wanted. Unfortunately, Ford paired these great-looking trucks with one of their worst engines ever, the 6.0-liter Powerstroke diesel V8. This engine appeared in Ford F-250s, F-350s, and F-450 Super Duty trucks from 2003 to 2007, as well as Ford Excursion SUVs. While the trucks themselves were tough and capable, the 6.0-liter Powerstroke was riddled with problems that left owners regularly visiting repair shops and emptying their bank accounts. Common issues included repeated head gasket failures, often requiring complete engine removal for repair. Injector failures were frequent and expensive to fix. Turbochargers malfunctioned regularly, leaving drivers stranded with no boost pressure. The exhaust gas recirculation system was particularly troublesome. The EGR cooler would fail, causing coolant to mix with the exhaust gases, leading to overheating and catastrophic engine damage. What made these repairs especially painful was Ford's engine placement. Major repairs often required removing the entire cab from the frame just to access the engine properly. This dramatically increased labor costs, turning already expensive repairs into financially devastating events. Some owners spent more on repairs than their trucks were worth. Ford eventually faced legal consequences for the 6.0-liter disaster. Class action lawsuits resulted in substantial payouts to frustrated owners. Some settlements exceeded $10 million combined. If you're considering a Super Duty from this era, the 6.0-liter Powerstroke should be an automatic disqualifier, unless you have deep pockets and a reliable mechanic on speed dial. Engine number 1, the 6.4-liter Powerstroke diesel V8. You'd think Ford learned valuable lessons from the 6.0-liter disaster, but somehow they managed to build an even worse diesel engine, the 6.4-liter Powerstroke. Produced from 2008 to 2010 for Ford F-250, F-350, and F-450 Super Duty trucks, this engine offered more power on paper, but came with even more catastrophic reliability issues. The 6.4-liter's most infamous problem was fuel dilution in the crankcase oil. The diesel particulate filter regeneration process dumped raw fuel into the cylinders to burn off accumulated soot. Much of this fuel washed past the piston rings into the oil pan, diluting the engine oil at an alarming rate. Owners reported their engine oil turning into a chocolate milk-like substance before reaching 10,000 miles. This diluted oil couldn't properly lubricate engine components, leading to accelerated wear and eventual failure. Radiator leaks were extremely common, as were failed EGR coolers that would crack and allow coolant to enter the exhaust system. Owners often noticed constant steam pouring from their tailpipes, an obvious indicator of EGR cooler failure. Clogged diesel particulate filters force the engine into limp mode, drastically reducing power and leaving drivers stranded. The dual turbocharger setup sounded impressive but proved fragile in practice. Turbo failures were common and expensive. Cracked pistons, broken piston rings, leaking EGR systems, and faulty up pipes rounded out the long list of common failures. Repair bills regularly reached 5 figures, and many owners simply gave up and traded their trucks in for substantial losses. The 6.4-liter Powerstroke made mechanics wealthy and left owners broke. It stands as perhaps the worst diesel engine Ford ever produced, cementing its place as the #1 engine to avoid. If you're shopping for a Super Duty from this era, seriously consider swapping in a different engine or just buying a different truck entirely. No deal is good enough to justify the headache and expense this engine brings. Ford has built many excellent engines throughout its history, but these 9 represent the company's biggest missteps in engine design and reliability. When shopping for a used Ford vehicle, knowing which engines to avoid is just as important as knowing which ones to seek out. Which of these troublesome Ford engines have you owned, and what was your experience? Share your stories in the comments below. Your experiences can help other buyers make informed decisions and avoid these costly mistakes. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more auto content. Thanks for watching, and good luck in your vehicle search.